Hi, my name is Alex, and I want to welcome you to 5e Leadership's Deep Dive podcast. Please welcome my co-host and partner, Jordan, to the mic. Jordan, what's our topic for today?
Today, we are tackling why 5E leadership.
Right.
We're going to be unpacking the methodology and the research of Rusty Calloway. He's the founder and president of 5E leadership. And we're really looking at why his specific approach, the whole person leader approach, is basically this necessary operating system upgrade for the modern workplace.
Yeah, and upgrade honestly feels like the right word there, because when you look at the traditional way a lot of companies are run, that old industrial command and control style, it feels like trying to run modern software on a computer from like 1995.
It really does.
It's clunky, it's slow, and it usually crashes right when you need it the most.
That is a perfect analogy. Because the old playbook was designed for a totally different world. It was designed for efficiency, for assembly lines, for managing things.
Right. Things, not people.
Exactly. You can't manage human beings like things anymore. The data is just screaming this at us. People are leaving jobs at record rates. We've all heard that old saying, people don't leave companies, they leave leaders.
They do, but I think a lot of leaders hear that and they think, well, I'm a nice person, so my team won't leave me. But looking at 5e leadership's methods, it's not really about just being nice, right? It's about something a lot deeper.
Oh, absolutely. It's about competence in how you handle the human instrument. People leave because their leaders are stuck trying to extract value instead of inspiring growth. So Calloway's work pivots entirely to leading the whole person. And he breaks this down into three massive pillars that we're going to spend our time on today.
Which are cognition, culture, and coaching, the 3 Cs.
You got it. And woven through all of that is their 5E framework. So let's just start right at the beginning with that first pillar, cognition.
Usually when you bring in a leadership consultant, they start with, here's how to run a better meeting, or here's how to delegate tasks. But Calloway starts inside the leader's own head.
That is the big differentiator right there. You really can't lead anyone else until you understand the biology that's happening between your own ears. Calloway calls this cognition expansion. It's about understanding the brain game.
Okay, so let's get into the game. What is happening in our brains that kind of messes up our leadership?
Well, it really comes down to two systems. You have system 1 and system 2. So system 1 is your autopilot. It's the primal brain, the paleolimbic system. It's fast, it's emotional, and it is very energy efficient.
Okay, so this is me when I get a really passive-aggressive email and I immediately just want to fire back some snarky reply. That's system 1.
100%. That's your survival instinct kicking in.
Yeah.
Threat detected, fire back.
Yeah.
Which is great if you're, dodging a swerving bus.
Yeah.
But for leadership, it's a total disaster.
Because leadership needs system 2.
Right. Leadership requires system 2. That's the prefrontal cortex, the PFC. That's where your logic, strategy, empathy, and innovation actually live. The problem is
It's slow.
it's slow and it burns a ton of energy.
So our brains are essentially just lazy.
In a way, yeah. They want to stay in system 1 to save calories. But here is where it gets genuinely scary for a team. If a leader is operating out of stress or fear or anger, they trigger something called the amygdala hijack in their employees.
I've heard this term a lot in the research, but break down the actual biology for us. What is happening there?
So imagine a fire alarm going off inside your head. That's the amygdala. When a leader creates a high-stress environment, maybe by yelling or honestly even just being vague and moody, the employee's amygdala screams danger. And the brain creates a cortisol cascade.
It just floods the body with stress hormones.
Exactly.
And cortisol is basically kryptonite for clear thinking, right?
It literally disconnects the prefrontal cortex. Think about the fire alarm again. If a ridiculously loud alarm is blaring in your office, can you sit down and solve a complex math problem?
No, absolutely not.
Right, you can't focus. So when a leader rules by fear, they are biologically making their team less intelligent in that moment. You cannot get innovation from a brain stuck in survival mode. It's physically impossible.
That is such a heavy realization for anyone in management. You're paying these people for their minds, but your own behavior is physically shutting those minds off. So how does 5e leadership suggest we fix this? Because, we all get stressed. We all have that system 1 reaction sometimes.
Well, Calloway's methods offer a really practical tool for this. It's called catch it, check it, change it. It's a cognitive behavioral technique that's been adapted specifically for leaders.
Walk me through it. Let's say I'm stuck in terrible traffic, I'm running late, and my direct report just texted me that they completely missed a major deadline. My system 1 is just ready to explode.
Okay, step 1 is catch it. You just notice the physical reaction, the tight chest, the heat in your face. Don't act on it. Just notice it. Say to yourself, oh, I'm triggered.
Okay, caught it. I haven't sent the angry text back yet.
Perfect. Step 2 is check it. This is where you engage your System 2 logic. You ask yourself, is my immediate thought actually true? Is it helpful? Because your System 1 might be screaming, they don't care about this project at all, you have to check that. Is that a hard fact, or is it just a narrative you invented in the car?
It's almost always a narrative. Like, maybe they missed the deadline because they were helping our biggest client with an emergency, or maybe I didn't give them clear instructions in the first place.
Precisely. And that brings you to step 3, which is change it. You reframe the narrative to something growth-oriented. So instead of they are lazy, you change it to they seem stuck, I need to find out what happened. And now you're walking into the office as a leader ready to solve a problem.
Not a tyrant ready to cause a new one.
Exactly.
And that creates a completely different outcome, which I can see bleeding directly into the second pillar of the whole person approach. Because if you get your cognition right, then you can actually start building the right culture.
Yes, and let's be very clear about what 5E leadership means when they say culture. Because it is not ping pong tables in the break room. It's not free kombucha on tap.
Thank goodness. I think we're all pretty exhausted by the whole perks as culture myth.
Right. Calloway defines culture as heartset. It's the actual feeling in the room. And specifically, it's about psychological safety. And I know some of the more hard-nosed executives listening might roll their eyes at a phrase like psychological safety, but we have to talk about the economics of trust.
This was the part of the research that really grabbed my attention. Because Rusty Calloway puts a hard dollar value on trust.
He does. The formula they use is incredibly simple, but profound. High trust equals high speed and low cost. Low trust equals low speed and high cost.
Unpack that a bit. How does trust actually lower a company's costs?
Think about what happens in a low trust environment. If I don't trust you to do your job, I have to micromanage you. I have to CC 10 different people on all our emails just to cover my own back.
We have to have meetings to plan the meetings.
Right, and endless legal contracts.
Yeah.
That is a trust tax. It slows every single process down, and it costs a fortune in time and energy.
That makes perfect sense. Whereas in a high-trust team, I just say, hey, can you handle this? You say yes, and we both move on.
Exactly. That's the trust dividend. Speed goes up, cost goes down. And getting there requires a leader who understands the neurochemistry we were just talking about. Cortisol is the fear chemical. But a leader's real job is to facilitate the release of connection chemicals, like oxytocin, which creates bonding, and serotonin, which is related to status and pride.
So instead of being this constant source of stress, the leader becomes a source of safety. And that's what allows people to move up that hierarchy of needs.
Yes. You want your people moving out of survival mode, where they're just trading hours for a paycheck, into a sense of belonging, and finally up to self-actualization. Because that's where the magic happens. That's where people do their best work because they want to, not because they are forced to.
Now, talking about belonging really brings us to probably the biggest friction point in almost every modern company today. And that's the generational divide. You've got boomers, Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z all trying to work in the same space. And usually it's just a mess.
It's a huge pain point. And this is really where 5E leadership stands alone in the consulting space. Because most gurus come in and they just teach stereotypes. They say things like, Gen Z needs constant praise and they have a short attention span. Or boomers are rigid and refuse to learn new technology.
It's basically corporate astrology at that point. Oh, you're a millennial, so you must want a beanbag chair and avocado toast.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's dangerous because it inherently creates this us versus them mentality. It splinters the culture. 5E leadership completely flips this. They don't focus on those sociological stereotypes. They focus on the neurological common ground. And they use a model called
SCARF, which stands for status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness.
Exactly. 5E's argument is that every single generation wants those 5 things. The human brain requires them. The only thing that changes is how those needs get triggered.
Give us a concrete example of that. How to play out in a multi-generational office.
Let's look at the S, which is status. Everyone needs to feel respected. But a baby boomer might feel their status is respected when you acknowledge their tenure, their 30 years of industry experience. If you ignore that, you trigger a threat response. But a Gen Z employee, they haven't been there for 30 years. They feel respected when you value their fresh ideas and their immediate contribution.
So the core human need is exactly the same, respect me, but the delivery vehicle for that respect is different.
Precisely. Or take certainty. The C, This is a huge one. Older leaders are constantly complaining that younger workers ask why way too much. Why are we doing it this way? Why not try this? And the boomer manager, who usually comes from that older command and control background, hears that as insubordination.
They just think, do your job and stop questioning me.
Right. But the younger worker isn't trying to be rebellious at all.
They're seeking certainty.
Yes. They grew up in an incredibly volatile, fast-paced world. They need context to feel safe. When they ask why, they're just trying to lower their own cortisol so they can actually perform. If a leader understands, they don't get angry. They realize, oh, this isn't pushback. This is just a request for clarity.
That is such a crucial mindset shift. You stop managing the birth year and you start leading the human being in front of you. You find that common ground.
That's the whole person approach in action. It just cuts right through all the noise and stereotypes.
So we've got the head right with cognition. We've got the heart right with culture. Now we need the hands. We have to actually do the work. Which leads us to the third pillar, coaching.
This is the skill set. And Calloway is very firm on this point. The days of being a boss are over. You have to be a coach. A boss manages tasks, but a coach develops people. And this is where the 5E framework comes into play. These are the 5 actual steps to coaching effectively.
Let's walk through them. The 5 E's. The very first one is engage.
Engage is the absolute foundation. It's about intentional presence. The main takeaway here is you have to connect before you correct.
Which sounds so simple, but I feel like almost nobody actually does it.
Because we're all too busy. We run into a meeting, we're staring at our phones, and we immediately just start barking orders or asking for status updates. That's a total failure to engage. If you haven't connected with the human first, you really haven't earned the right to lead them. It's about stopping, making actual eye contact, and asking, how are you doing today? And then actually waiting for the answer.
And once you've done that, once you've engaged, you move to the second E, which is empathy.
Right. And be careful here, because empathy isn't just feeling sorry for someone. In the 5E framework, empathy is really about data collection. It's understanding the context of that person's life. Rusty uses this great quote from Dan Cathy of Chick-fil-A, "A good shepherd smells like his sheep."
That is a very vivid way to put it.
It just means you have to be close enough to your people to know what they're actually walking through. Are they dealing with a sick parent at home? Are they completely overwhelmed by that new software rollout? Because if you don't know their context, you can't lead them effectively. Empathy lowers the temperature in the room so the truth can finally come out.
Okay, so we've engaged and we've shown empathy. Now we actually need to get to work. So the third E is equip.
Equip is where we build the bridge between someone's potential and their actual performance. And the biggest failure point here for leaders is ambiguity. Leaders think they're being crystal clear, but they aren't. So 5E teaches a great tool called ODC to fix this.
ODC, outcome, deadline, clarifiers.
It's the ultimate checklist for delegation. Outcome, what exactly does a whim look like? Paint a clear picture for them. Deadline, when exactly do you need it? Telling someone you need it soon is not a deadline.
Right.
And clarifiers, what resources do they have? What are the constraints or the budget?
I love that tool because it stops what I call the bring me a rock game, where a boss says, hey, I need a report, and you bring it to them, and they say, no, not that rock, go find me a different rock.
Yes. ODC completely kills the bring me a rock game because it creates that certainty we talked about earlier.
Next up is the fourth E, which is empower. This is a word that gets thrown around so much in corporate jargon, but how does 5E actually define it?
They define empower as moving someone from assigned responsibility to chosen ownership. And the absolute best way to visualize this is the bowling alley analogy.
I really like this part of the research. Tell everyone about the bumper guards.
So imagine you're taking a little kid bowling. If they throw the ball in the gutter every single time, they get frustrated and they just want to quit. Empowerment is like the leader stepping up and putting the bumper guards in the gutters. The leader sets the safe boundaries. Here is the budget. Here is the timeline. Here are the legal compliance rules. Those are the rails.
But inside those rails?
Inside the rails, the employee can throw the ball however they want. They have total autonomy. It's structured freedom.
That's a great distinction.
Right, because it's not abandonment where you just say good luck and walk away. And it's not micromanagement either. It's saying, here is the safe zone. Now you own the execution of this task. That is how you build real confidence in a team.
And that confidence leads us right into the final E, which is encourage.
Encourage. And I want to be really clear about this one. This is not about handing out participation trophies or just being a cheerleader. Encouragement, according to the neuroscience, is literally fuel. When you genuinely praise someone's effort, not just their natural talent, but their actual effort, the brain releases dopamine.
And dopamine is the reward chemical.
Exactly. It acts like a neurotransmitter cement. It reinforces the neural pathways that were used to achieve that success. So when you encourage someone the right way, you're literally wiring their brain to repeat that high performance in the future.
Which connects directly to the growth mindset work by Carol Dweck. You have to praise the process and the effort, not just the person.
Precisely. There's this beautiful story Rusty Calloway shares about his grandson, Lon. Lon was running cross-country, and he was trying desperately to break the 25-minute mark for a 5K race. He had just hit a wall, and he started saying, "I can't do it," which is a classic fixed mindset.
He was just accepting that limit as permanent.
Right. But Rusty stepped in, using this encourage pillar, and helped him reframe it using just one word. Yet. You haven't done it yet. They focused entirely on the effort, the training, the strategy. And at the very next big meet, Lon didn't just break 25 minutes. He ran a 22.59.
Wow, that is a massive jump.
He absolutely smashed it. And that is the power of a leader shifting someone's mindset from "I can't" to "I'm growing." That is what the encourage pillar actually does.
It's incredible to see how all these pieces fit together so perfectly. You start by getting the leader's mind right with cognition, then you build a safe environment with culture, and then you use the 5E framework as your coaching tool to actually execute.
That is the whole person leader approach in a nutshell. And that is exactly why companies hire 5E leadership to come in and consult. They aren't just coming in to give a fun motivational speech for an hour. They are installing a complete cultural operating system. They are helping you move your entire workforce from basic compliance, just doing the bare minimum not to get fired, into true commitment.
And in today's economy, where top talent can work from anywhere and will quit at the drop of a hat, that level of commitment is basically the only competitive advantage you have left.
Absolutely. If you want a high-performance team, you have to start by understanding the human brain.
So for our listeners out there who are thinking, okay, I need to try this, what's our challenge to action for them this week?
I would say pick just one of the 5 E's to focus on. Don't try to overhaul your whole leadership style by tomorrow. Maybe just choose engage. For the next week, make a strict pact with yourself. I will not give a single instruction until I've made a genuine human connection with the person I'm talking to. Just try that one small shift and watch how the energy in the room changes.
I love that. I'm personally going to try the catch it, check it, change it tool on myself, because I think my System 1 has definitely been running the show a little too much lately.
We've all been there. It's a daily practice, not a destination.
Well, for the executives and HR leaders listening, if you realize today that your company is running on that old, broken operating system, you really need to bring in the experts. 5E leadership is the upgrade you are looking for.
They really are. They consult with companies to build these high-performance lead teams from the ground up. You can find all their research, their methods, and their contact info at www.5eleadership.com. And I know Rusty Calloway is incredibly passionate about this work. He actually invites people to email him directly to start the conversation at rusty@5eleadership.com.
That's pretty rare access these days. Leading the whole person cognition, culture, and coaching. It truly is the future of work. Thank you for walking us through the research today.
Always a pleasure.
And thank you all for joining us on 5E Leadership's Deep Dive podcast. Try out that challenge this week, and we'll see you next time.